Ladies and gentlemen, friends, winners in the making, let me tell you something important today. Your mind is the steering wheel of your life. Where you steer it, that's where you'll go. If you fill it with excuses, you'll drive straight into the land of could have been. But if you fill it with vision, hope, and belief, you'll drive straight into the land of can be and will be. Now, here's the truth. You can't live a positive life with a negative mind. It's like trying to play beautiful music on an instrument that's out of tune. The song will always come out sour until you fix the instrument. Some people say, well, my situation is terrible and my circumstances are holding me back. But here's the question, what are you feeding your mind? Because your life is nothing more than a reflection of what's going on in that head of yours. Change your thinking and you change your direction. Let me give you a picture. Imagine two people working in the same office. One wakes up in the morning saying, another day, another dollar. Same problems, same people, same grind. The other wakes up and says, this is the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. I get to go make a difference today. Both walk into the same building, deal with the same boss, face the same challenges. Yet one drags through the day with dread, while the other walks out with joy, ideas, and progress. What's the difference? Not the job. Not the boss, not the pay. The difference is the mindset. You see, when you change your mind, you don't just change how you feel, you change how you act. And when you change how you act, you change your results. And when you change your results, you change your life. It's not magic, it's not luck, it's the law of life. Input determines output. Put garbage in, you get garbage out. Put greatness in, you get greatness out. So today, I challenge you, start guarding your mind like a treasure chest. Read what lifts you up, not what tears you down. Surround yourself with people who challenge you to grow, not complain with you to stay small. Speak words of faith, not words of fear. Because the truth is, you don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to be great. And that start begins right here. In the way you think, change your mind, and you'll change your choices. Change your choices, and you'll change your future. Change your future, and before long, you'll look back and realize you've changed your life. So, my friends, let's decide today to live not by default, but by design. Let's fill our minds with the fuel of faith, possibility, and action. And when we do, our lives will rise to match the level of our thinking. Your mind is the steering wheel of your life, and the direction of your thoughts determines the destination of your future. Just as a car cannot move forward safely without a steady hand on the wheel, your life cannot move toward fulfillment and success without conscious control of your thinking. Every choice you make, every action you take, and every habit you form flows from the way you think. The mind is not simply a storage unit for memories or a machine for solving problems. It is the command center that shapes the course of your life. If your thoughts are full of doubt, fear, and negativity, it is as if you are steering yourself straight toward a road of frustration and failure. But if your mind is filled with vision, faith, and determination, you will find yourself driving into opportunities, growth, and success. Think about it this way. When you sit behind the wheel of a car, you understand that the direction you turn the wheel is the direction the car will go. No one argues with that principle, yet many people forget that the same principle governs life itself. When a person constantly dwells on problems, talks about limitations, and replays past failures in their mind, they are steering themselves into more of the same. Their focus becomes their reality. On the other hand, When a person chooses to feed their mind with possibility, solutions, and gratitude, they begin to see doors open where others see only walls. Their mindset directs their energy shapes their actions, and their actions create new results. The truth is, your mind is always steering, whether you notice it or not. Many people drift through life unaware that their thinking patterns are quietly guiding them toward outcomes they never wanted. It is like driving with your hands loosely on the wheel while staring out the side window. You will eventually end up off course. That is why awareness and intention are so critical. You must deliberately choose the road you want and then discipline your thoughts to stay aligned with that path. You cannot afford to leave the steering wheel of your life in the hands of fear, gossip, bitterness, or laziness. If you do, those forces will drive you into a ditch. But when you decide to grip the wheel with purpose, directing your mind toward hope, faith, and persistence, you put yourself on the road toward success. Consider how this works in everyday situations. Take two people who face the same setback, perhaps losing a job. One person immediately fills their mind with panic. I'll never find another job. The economy is bad. Nobody wants to hire someone like me. Their thoughts steer them toward despair, and soon they stop even trying. Another person in the same situation tells themselves, this is tough, but it's also a chance for me to grow. I can learn new skills, meet new people, and maybe even start the career I've always dreamed of. That mindset steers them toward opportunity, and soon they begin networking, studying, applying, and eventually landing something better than what they lost. Both people faced the same challenge, but their minds drove them to completely different destinations. The steering effect of the mind is not limited to careers or crises. It is present in relationships, health, finances, and every other part of life. If you think thoughts of distrust and resentment toward people, you will steer your relationships toward conflict and loneliness. But if you think thoughts of kindness, patience, and understanding, you will steer those same relationships toward closeness and joy. If you constantly think, I'll never be healthy, I hate exercise, and I can't resist bad food, your mind will guide your habits to match those beliefs, and your body will suffer. But if you think, I am capable of being strong, I enjoy taking care of myself, and I am grateful for the energy health brings, your thoughts will steer you toward daily choices that support well-being. Everywhere you look, the pattern holds true. The mind is the wheel and life follows the turn. Now, some people may say, but what about circumstances I can't control? What about hardships, setbacks, or bad breaks? It is true that you cannot control everything that happens to you, just as you cannot control every bump or pothole in the road. But what you can control is how you steer through them. Two drivers may face the same storm. One panics, loses focus, and crashes, while the other stays calm, keeps their hands steady, and makes it safely through. The storm was the same, but the response was different. In the same way, your life is shaped less by what happens to you and more by how you think about what happens to you. That thinking guides your decisions, and your decisions guide your future. This is why the quality of your input is so important. The mind will steer according to whatever it is fed. If you fill it with negative news, toxic conversations, and self-defeating beliefs, it will naturally turn toward negativity. But if you feed it with uplifting books, encouraging voices, and empowering ideas, it will turn toward growth. Just as a driver must keep their eyes on the road to stay safe, you must keep your thoughts on the right vision to stay on course. Your focus creates your direction, and your direction determines your destiny. So the question becomes, where do you want to go? Do you want to live a life of meaning, joy, and success? Then you must begin by steering your thoughts that way. That does not mean ignoring reality or pretending challenges don't exist. It means choosing to face reality with a mindset that says, I can handle this, I can grow from this, I can move forward. That choice gives you the power to navigate challenges and to create opportunities even in the middle of obstacles. The steering wheel of your life is already in your hands. Every day, with every thought, you are turning it one way or another. The beauty is you can decide right now to change direction. You can stop steering toward fear, doubt, and limitation, and you can start steering toward faith, confidence, and growth. It will not always be easy, but it will always be worth it. And the moment you take control of your mind, you take control of your life's journey. Because the truth remains simple. Where the mind goes, the life follows. You can't live a positive life with a negative mind. That simple truth has guided countless people out of frustration and into fulfillment. Life responds to the way you think about it. If your thoughts are poisoned with doubt, anger, and pessimism, it is impossible to live joyfully or succeed meaningfully. A negative mind acts like a filter. No matter how much goodness comes your way, it will twist it into something dark. Even opportunities will look like threats, and blessings will feel like burdens. On the other hand, a positive mind doesn't mean you deny reality or ignore problems. It means you approach them with a perspective that sees possibilities where others only see dead ends. A positive mind opens doors, while a negative mind slams them shut. Picture two gardeners. One tends the soil carefully, planting seeds of hope, encouragement, and faith. He waters them daily, even on days when nothing seems to sprout. Eventually, his garden blossoms with fruit and flowers. The other gardener throws trash, weeds, and stones onto his soil. He spends his time complaining that nothing ever grows, but he forgets that he himself is polluting the ground. The first gardener is the positive thinker. The second is the negative one. The garden is life itself. What you plant in your mind determines what grows in your days. Negativity is subtle. It often sneaks in disguised as realism or common sense. People say, I'm just being practical. I don't want to get my hopes up. But what they are really doing is preparing for failure, rehearsing disappointment, and setting themselves up to miss opportunities. A negative mindset builds walls around possibility. It convinces you that risk is danger, that trying is pointless, and that success is only for others. Soon enough, the person living with a negative mind will find themselves stuck in a cycle of fear and stagnation. They will avoid change because they believe change will make things worse. They will avoid effort because they believe effort won't matter. They will avoid dreaming because they believe dreams are for fools. A positive mind, by contrast, invites action. It says, this challenge may be tough, but it's also temporary. I have the ability to learn, grow, and make progress. When a person thinks that way, they begin to take steps forward. Those steps may not solve everything overnight, but they create momentum. And momentum is the secret ingredient of success. Life rewards movement. A positive mindset generates that movement, while a negative mindset paralyzes it. Think about relationships. A person with a negative mind often assumes the worst in others. They interpret silence as rejection, mistakes as betrayal, and differences as threats. Over time, this mindset poisons friendships, marriages, and partnerships. They live in suspicion, blame, and disappointment. A person with a positive mind, however, chooses to give others the benefit of the doubt. They see mistakes as lessons, silence as reflection, and differences as opportunities to learn. This doesn't mean they are blind to reality. It means they interpret reality in a way that builds instead of destroys. As a result, They experience stronger connections, healthier communication, and deeper trust. Health is another area where mindset plays a critical role. Studies have shown that people with a negative outlook on life experience higher stress, weaker immune systems, and greater vulnerability to illness. Why? Because the body follows the signals of the mind. A person who constantly thinks, "I'm tired, I'm sick, I can't do this," will feel those very conditions in their body. Meanwhile, someone who trains their thoughts to focus on strength, healing, and resilience sends a different signal. Their body responds with energy, vitality, and recovery. A positive life cannot be separated from a positive mind because the two are intertwined at the deepest level. Even in finances, mindset matters. A negative thinker sees money as scarce, impossible to earn, and always slipping away. They live in fear, and that fear drives poor choices, overspending, hoarding, or refusing to invest in growth. A positive thinker views money as a tool, a resource that can be earned, managed, and multiplied with wisdom and creativity. That perspective encourages learning new skills, seeking opportunities, and practicing discipline. Over time, the difference between the two mindsets becomes visible. One stays trapped in lack while the other grows in abundance. Of course, some people object to the idea of positivity. They say, "Just because I think happy thoughts doesn't mean life will be easy." And they are absolutely right. Positive thinking does not erase hardship. What it does is give you the strength to face hardship without being crushed by it. It gives you a way to keep moving forward instead of quitting. Life will always deliver challenges, but your mindset determines whether those challenges define you or refine you. A negative mind defines you as a victim. A positive mind refines you into a victor. So how do you shift from negativity to positivity? It begins with awareness. Pay attention to the words you speak and the thoughts you repeat. Every complaint is a clue that negativity has taken hold. Every excuse is a sign that your mind is steering in the wrong direction. Replace those complaints with gratitude. Replace those excuses with action. Surround yourself with people who lift you higher, not those who drag you lower. Feed your mind with books, conversations, and ideas that inspire growth. Little by little, your thinking changes, and as your thinking changes, so does your life. The difference between a negative and positive mindset is not small. It is the difference between living in defeat and living in possibility. Negativity shrinks life down to fear and frustration. Positivity expands life into hope and opportunity. If you want a positive life, it cannot be built on a foundation of negative thoughts. You must clear away the weeds of doubt and plant the seeds of belief. You must stop rehearsing failure and start imagining success, because in the end, the life you live is a direct reflection of the thoughts you think, and the choice is always yours. Circumstances don't determine success. Mindset does. That statement can feel almost unbelievable when life is hard, but time and time again it proves true. Two people can stand in the same storm, facing the same wind and rain, yet one of them will bend and break while the other will rise and grow. The difference isn't the storm, it's what's happening inside their mind. Success is not guaranteed by comfort or security, nor is failure guaranteed by struggle or lack. It is the attitude of the person, not the condition of their surroundings, that ultimately decides whether they move forward or stay stuck. Life is full of examples of people who had little but believed they could achieve much. Some grew up poor with no family support, no special connections, and no formal education, yet their mindset, one of determination, faith, and vision, drove them to climb higher than anyone expected. At the same time, history shows countless people who were born into privilege with every advantage at their fingertips, who wasted it all because their minds were clouded with laziness, doubt, or fear. The common thread is clear. It's not where you start, It's how you think about where you are that matters most. Imagine two students sitting in the same classroom, listening to the same teacher, taking the same tests. One looks at the material and says, "This is too hard. I'll never understand it." They stop trying, give half-hearted effort, and eventually fail. The other says, "This is tough, but if I keep at it, I'll figure it out." They ask questions, practice, and eventually succeed. Same subject, same teacher, same classroom, different mindset, different outcome. It is never just the environment that creates success. It is the interpretation of the environment and the belief system a person carries into it. The workplace tells the same story. Two employees may have the same boss, the same workload, and the same opportunities for promotion. One complains daily, blames management, and convinces themselves they are stuck. The other looks for solutions, invests in learning new skills, and maintains hope for growth. Over time, one becomes bitter while the other becomes better. And eventually, the one with the right mindset is noticed, rewarded, and promoted. The other stays exactly where they were, or worse, quits in frustration, believing circumstances held them back, when in reality it was their own thinking that kept them small. Even in health, mindset matters as much as conditions. Someone diagnosed with a serious illness may say, "This is the end. I can't handle this." That mindset drains their strength, weakens their spirit, and often shortens their fight. Another person with the same diagnosis may say, "This is a challenge, but I'll do everything I can to get better. I'll keep my hope alive." That mindset fuels their body with resilience and their spirit with courage. The illness doesn't determine who wins. It is the mindset that makes all the difference. Some might argue that circumstances are too powerful to ignore. And yes, there are real challenges: poverty, discrimination, loss, sickness. These cannot be dismissed or minimized. But even in the harshest situations, there are countless examples of people who refuse to let their conditions dictate their future. They decided to rise above, and their mindset gave them the strength to do so. A strong mind does not erase the challenge, but it transforms how the challenge is met. Think about athletes. Two runners face the same race. One looks at the long road ahead and says, "This is impossible. I'll never make it." They burn out quickly because they've already lost in their mind. The other looks at the same road and says, "One step at a time, I can do this." They keep going, and eventually they finish strong. The race did not favor one over the other. Their mindset determined who crossed the finish line. The world often teaches that success comes from luck, money, or connections. And while those things can help, they are useless without the right mindset. Give a lazy or negative person $1 million, and soon they will be broke again. Give an industrious, positive person $10 and a vision, and eventually they will grow it into something far greater. Circumstances can change quickly, but mindset is what ensures that when opportunities appear, you're ready to seize them. So how do you build a mindset that rises above circumstances? It begins with perspective. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What can I learn from this? How can I grow through this?" That shift turns every setback into a classroom and every obstacle into a stepping stone. It continues with belief. You must believe that your effort matters, that your choices count, and that you are capable of creating change. Without belief, effort feels pointless. With belief, even small actions accumulate into powerful results. And finally, it requires discipline. A strong mindset is not formed in a day. It is strengthened by daily habits of gratitude, persistence, and positive input. The truth is, success is rarely about being the smartest, richest, or most talented. It is about being the one who refuses to quit, the one who keeps moving forward despite the odds, The one who holds a vision even when circumstances seem to argue against it. That kind of mindset can take an ordinary person and carry them to extraordinary heights. So when life feels unfair, when circumstances seem overwhelming, remember this: you are not defined by where you are, but by how you think about where you are. You are not trapped by your surroundings unless your mind convinces you to stay trapped. With the right mindset, you can rise above difficulty, create opportunity, and write a story of success that circumstances alone could never have predicted. The power is not out there. It is in here, in your mind. And when you take control of that, you take control of your future. Input determines output. That truth may sound simple, but it shapes the very core of your life. The thoughts, ideas, words, and influences you allow into your mind will determine the choices you make, the habits you form, and the results you experience. Just like a computer is only as effective as the software installed in it, a person is only as effective as the programming of their mind. If you feed yourself negative input, you cannot expect positive results. If you surround yourself with doubt, gossip, and fear, your output will be hesitation, weakness, and defeat. But if you fill your mind with encouragement, truth, wisdom, and vision, your output will be courage, strength, and success. Life does not produce results that are better than the seeds you plant in your thinking. Think of your mind as a field. Whatever you plant in it will grow. Plant corn and you'll reap corn. Plant weeds and you'll reap weeds. No farmer in their right mind would plant thorns and expect apples. Yet many people fill their minds with toxic words, destructive media, and discouraging voices, then wonder why their lives are filled with anxiety, failure, and broken relationships. Your results are not accidents, they are harvests, and the harvest depends on the seeds. Input comes in many forms. The books you read, the music you listen to, the shows you watch, the conversations you entertain, the people you spend time with, all of these are inputs. If you spend hours listening to people complain, your mind will become trained to complain. If you feed on fear-driven news all day, your mind will become fearful. If you watch stories of failure and chaos, you'll expect the same in your own life. On the other hand, if you fill your ears with words of encouragement, your eyes with examples of perseverance, and your heart with uplifting stories, you'll begin to expect and attract better outcomes. Consider two individuals with the same potential. One spends their time scrolling through negative media, watching videos that mock success and glorify failure. Their mind becomes conditioned to think success is unattainable, and soon they give up on their dreams. The other spends the same time reading inspiring biographies, studying new skills, and connecting with people who challenge them to grow. Their mind becomes conditioned to believe success is possible, and they begin to act in ways that lead them closer to their goals. Same potential, different input, different output. It is often said, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That is simply another way of saying input determines output. If your closest circle of friends is lazy, unmotivated, and negative, their mindset will seep into you. Over time, you will begin to adopt their attitudes without even realizing it. But if your circle is made of people who are driven, hopeful, and supportive, their energy will lift you higher. You cannot expect to fly with eagles if you spend all your time scratching with chickens. The same principle applies to the words you speak to yourself. Self-talk is a powerful input. If your inner dialogue is full of phrases like, I can't, I'm not good enough, I'll never make it, then your output will reflect those beliefs. Your actions will shrink to the size of your doubts. But if your self-talk is filled with, I am capable, I am learning, I am growing, I can do this, then your output will reflect confidence and perseverance. The words you say to yourself are like commands given to your mind, and your mind obeys. Even small, daily choices of input accumulate over time. Just as one unhealthy meal won't destroy your health, but repeated poor eating will. One negative conversation won't ruin your mindset, but repeated negativity will. And just as one workout won't make you fit, but consistent workouts will. One motivational book won't change your life, but consistent positive input will. The key is consistency. What you repeatedly feed your mind becomes your mental diet, and your mental diet becomes your life's output. Let's take an example from sports. A young athlete trains daily with coaches who push them, encourage them, and teach them strategies for improvement. Their input is filled with discipline, motivation, and growth. Over time, their output is skill, confidence, and achievement. Another young athlete skips training, surrounds themselves with peers who ridicule effort, and consumes media that glamorizes shortcuts. Their input is laziness, distraction, and mediocrity. Their output becomes inconsistency, frustration, and failure. Both had talent, but talent without the right input produces wasted potential. It is important to recognize that input is a choice. No one forces you to watch endless negativity on TV. No one forces you to spend time with toxic people. No one forces you to speak words of defeat over yourself. Those are choices, and the results they create are the consequences of those choices. If you want better output, you must take responsibility for better input. Guard your mind like a gatekeeper. Be intentional about what enters, because once it's inside, it begins to shape your future. The good news is that input can be changed at any time. You don't need to be trapped by yesterday's habits. You can decide today to change your mental diet. You can pick up a book that inspires instead of scrolling through posts that discourage. You can start spending time with people who challenge you to rise instead of those who drag you down. You can choose to speak affirmations of strength instead of words of weakness. Each positive input is like a drop of clean water into a muddy glass. Over time, the water becomes clearer, and so does your thinking. So, if you want better relationships, feed your mind with wisdom about love, kindness, and understanding. If you want better health, feed your mind with knowledge about fitness, discipline, and self-care. If you want better finances, feed your mind with education about money, growth, and opportunity. Whatever you desire to improve in life, start by improving the input in that area, because you will never rise higher than the thoughts you allow to dominate your mind. In the end, the principle is simple but powerful. Input determines output. Garbage in, garbage out. Greatness in, greatness out. Your future is being shaped right now by the words you hear, the images you see, the people you engage with, and the beliefs you hold. If you want a positive, successful, and fulfilling life, start by guarding the gates of your mind. Feed it only what builds you, strengthens you, and moves you toward your goals. Do this consistently, and you will discover that your output, your actions, results, and ultimately your life will reflect the greatness of the input you have chosen. Change begins with thought, then action, then results. Every great achievement in life starts in the invisible world of the mind before it ever shows up in reality. The chair you're sitting on began as someone's idea. The building you live in was once a vision in an architect's head. The phone in your hand was first a thought in an inventor's imagination. Nothing is created until it is first conceived. That is why the way you think is so powerful. A single thought can ignite a chain reaction that transforms your life, but that transformation does not stop at thinking. It must flow into action, and then those actions compound into results. Too often, people expect results without first addressing their thoughts. They say, I want to be successful, I want to be healthier, I want better relationships, yet their thinking is full of excuses, doubt, and fear. That negative thinking sabotages them before they even begin. Thought is the seed, and if the seed is rotten, the harvest will be poor. On the other hand, when you plant strong, positive, disciplined thoughts, you give yourself the foundation for growth. You begin to imagine possibilities, and that imagination fuels your motivation to act. Without new thoughts, there can be no new actions. Without new actions, there can be no new results. Think of a runner preparing for a marathon. The journey does not begin at the starting line. It begins months earlier in the mind. They first think, I can do this. I want to challenge myself. That thought becomes the spark. From there, they act. They buy running shoes, set a training schedule, wake up early, and practice daily. Over time, those actions produce results: stronger muscles, greater endurance, and finally, the accomplishment of finishing the marathon. The process was clear thought, then action, then results. If the runner never allowed the thought, I can run a marathon, to take root, the actions and results would never have followed. This principle works in every area of life. Take finances. Someone thinks, I will never be wealthy. Money is too hard to manage. That thought produces inaction or careless spending, and the result is financial struggle. Another person thinks, I can learn to manage money wisely and create a better future. That thought produces new actions like saving, investing, and studying. Over time, those actions compound into results: stability, growth, and wealth. The same principle applies to health, relationships, and career. Your thought life is the blueprint. Your actions are the construction work. Your results are the finished building. But here's where many people stop short. They get stuck in the thought stage. They dream, they plan, they talk, but they never act. A thought without action is like a seed in a packet. It has potential, but produces nothing. You cannot think yourself into a new life. You must act yourself into one. The thought is the spark, but the action is the fire. And the fire is what produces light, warmth, and power. Others take action but fail to prepare their mind first. They rush into change with the wrong mindset. For example, someone may decide to start a business, but carry the thought, I'll probably fail, but I'll try anyway. That thought poisons their effort, and when they face the first challenge, they quit. Contrast that with someone whose thought is, I will face challenges, but I will learn and keep moving forward. That belief sustains their actions, and eventually their persistence leads to results. The thought provides the foundation for endurance. Consider relationships. A person who constantly thinks no one can be trusted, love always ends badly, will act cold, distant, and defensive. Those actions produce the very result they feared: broken connections and loneliness. Another person thinks relationships take work, but love and trust are worth the effort. They act with patience, kindness, and forgiveness. Those actions produce results: stronger bonds, deeper intimacy, and lasting love. Again, the sequence is clear thought, then action, then results. The good news is that you can always start the process anew. Even if your current results are disappointing, you can trace them back to the actions that created them, and those actions back to the thoughts that inspired them. If you don't like the harvest, change the seed. Replace the thought that says, I can't, with one that says, I can learn. Replace the thought that says, this will never change, with one that says, step by step, things can improve. When you change the thought, your actions begin to shift. And when your actions shift, your results eventually follow. This is why personal development is so critical. Reading uplifting books, listening to motivational speakers, practicing gratitude, and surrounding yourself with encouraging people. All of these are ways to plant strong thoughts in your mind. Those thoughts create the fuel for consistent action, and consistent action over time produces undeniable results. But here's the part most people overlook: results feed back into thoughts. When you act and see progress, even small progress, your belief grows stronger. That stronger belief inspires bigger action, which creates greater results. It becomes a cycle of growth. The danger, of course, is that the same cycle works in reverse. Negative thoughts lead to weak actions, which lead to poor results, which reinforce negative thoughts. That's why it is so important to interrupt the negative cycle and start a new one. Let's bring it down to something simple. Imagine a person who wants to get in shape. The thought comes, I want to be healthier. If they believe that thought, they take action. They go for a walk. They eat a little better. The result is they lose a pound or two and feel more energy. That result reinforces the thought. This is working. I can keep going. That thought leads to more action, longer walks, healthier meals, and the results keep multiplying. Over time, they transform their life. But none of it would have happened without the first thought. Your life right now is the sum of the thoughts you've believed, the actions you've taken, and the results those actions created. If you want to change your life, you must respect the order. Change your thoughts so you can change your actions, so you can change your results. There is no shortcut, no magic pill, no instant success. The process is universal and unchanging. So the next time you feel stuck, don't start by demanding different results. Start by asking yourself, what thoughts am I allowing? What actions are those thoughts producing? Because until you change what happens in your mind, your results will remain the same. But when you choose to plant new thoughts, back them with bold action, and persist until the results come, you will find yourself living a new reality. Change always begins in the mind, but it never ends there. Thought leads to action. Action leads to results, and results reshape your life. You don't have to be great to start, but you must start to be great. Those words hold the key to progress, because the greatest obstacle to success is not failure, it is hesitation. Too many people wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, or the perfect confidence before they take action. They tell themselves, I'll begin when I'm ready, when I've learned more, when the conditions are better. But the truth is, that day never comes. Conditions are never perfect, knowledge is never complete, and readiness only comes through action. Greatness is built step by step, and the first step is always the hardest. Every master was once a beginner. Every expert once struggled with confusion. Every leader once faced fear and doubt. What set them apart was not their starting point, but their willingness to begin anyway. They chose to act in the face of uncertainty. They chose to stumble, to fall, and to learn until they grew stronger. The mistake most people make is assuming greatness is a requirement for starting, when in fact starting is the requirement for greatness. Think of a child learning to walk. They don't wait until they've perfected balance before they take their first step. They wobble. They fall, they cry, and then they try again. With each attempt, they get better until walking becomes natural. Imagine if a child said, I won't try until I'm sure I can walk perfectly. They would never take a step. Yet many adults do exactly that with their dreams. They refuse to start until they can guarantee perfection, and in doing so, they never begin at all. History is filled with stories of ordinary beginnings that led to extraordinary achievements. Famous inventors, entrepreneurs, athletes, and leaders started small with limited resources and countless doubts. They weren't great when they began. They became great because they started. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before creating the light bulb. Imagine if he had waited until he was certain of success before he ever began. The world might still be in darkness. Greatness was not in the first attempt. It was in the persistence to keep starting again and again. Starting is powerful because it breaks the barrier of fear. Fear feeds on delay. The longer you wait, the bigger your doubts grow. But the moment you take action, fear loses its grip. Even small steps weaken the hold of hesitation. Once you've started, momentum takes over. One step leads to another, and before long, you look back and realize how far you've come. Momentum is built not on greatness, but on the courage to begin. Consider fitness as an example. Many people want to get in shape, but never start because they think they need the perfect plan or fancy equipment. They say, I'll start next month when I have more time, or I'll join a gym when I can afford it. Months turn into years, and nothing changes, yet someone else decides, I'll start today by walking for 10 minutes. That small action builds confidence. 10 minutes turns into 20, walking turns into jogging, and eventually they become fit. They didn't wait to be great. They started small and grew great along the way. The same is true in business. Some people wait for the perfect idea, the perfect amount of capital, or the perfect economy before they begin. But opportunities rarely come dressed as perfect. Successful entrepreneurs are the ones who start with what they have, learn along the way, and adjust as they go. They make mistakes, but each mistake teaches them how to do better. Their greatness is not in avoiding failure, but in daring to begin despite the risk of failure. Even in personal growth, the principle holds. Someone may dream of reading more books, improving their mindset, or learning a new skill. They hesitate, thinking they need hours of free time or the perfect study environment. But greatness doesn't come from hours. It comes from starting with minutes. Reading 5 pages a day adds up to dozens of books in a year. Practicing a skill for 10 minutes daily leads to mastery over time. The person who starts, even imperfectly, always surpasses the one who waits for perfection. It's important to understand that starting small is not a weakness. Every seed begins small, but within it is the potential for a towering tree. Every effort, no matter how minor, carries the power of growth. What matters is not the size of the start, but the consistency of continuing. Small steps repeated daily create massive change. Greatness is not a single leap. It is the accumulation of steady steps taken with courage and persistence. Some people let comparison hold them back. They look at someone who is already successful and think, I'll never be like that. What they forget is that the person they admire once stood at the same starting line. No one begins at the finish. Comparing your start to someone else's middle is unfair and discouraging. Instead of comparing, be inspired. Let their journey remind you that starting is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. The journey of greatness requires humility. It takes humility to start small, to accept imperfection, and to learn as you go. But humility is also freedom. When you allow yourself to begin imperfectly, you free yourself from the prison of procrastination. You stop waiting for approval or guarantees, and you embrace the process of growth. Every mistake becomes a teacher, every attempt a stepping stone. At the heart of this principle is choice. You can choose to wait for greatness and never begin, or you can choose to begin and allow greatness to grow. The choice to start, even when you feel unready, is the most important choice you will ever make. Because the truth is, you may never feel ready, but readiness is created by the act of beginning. So if you have a dream, a goal, or a vision, don't wait another day. Don't wait until you have everything figured out. Don't wait until the timing is perfect. Take the first step now, no matter how small. Write the first page, make the first call, take the first class, go for the first walk. Greatness is not in the size of the step, but in the decision to move forward. You don't have to be great to start, but you must start to be great. That is the unshakable truth of progress. Begin where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. The rest will come as you grow. The journey of 1,000 miles begins not with greatness, but with a single step. And the moment you take that step, you set greatness in motion.